friends, I am the Dungeon Tutor. Welcome! Today we are covering another topic for RPGaDay, this being the 19th of August. That's time for the 19th question. And the question is a pretty straightforward one again. I think this is going to be another one that's good to look at other people doing RPGaDay because you'll get a pretty good range of different topics, I think, on this. But it is, what is your favorite published adventure? Now, I know there's some game masters out there who never run published adventures. I was one who never ran published adventures. I always made my own stuff up. And that is part of the charm of role-playing games in general. I totally admit it. But, first of all, I guess now is as good a time as any to show you that I myself am a game author. I have published, through my friends at Gooey Cube, Strangely Gooey Holiday, which I wrote for my friend Alphinius Goo. This is the copy that he himself autographed. And it's a fun holiday romp through his tower. His basement, really. And it was a blast to write. And, of course, it being mine, I have to put that as a mention, as one of my favorites. Even running it was a lot of fun. Although, I admit, it was my freshman project. And had I done it again, I probably would have done a few things a little bit differently, but it was, it's a fun adventure, and I highly recommend it for anybody. Just go to Gooey Cube. You can find Strangely Gooey Holiday. Comes with handouts. It comes with, item cards for the things that you can find there. It's a fun little thing. So, that is probably not my all-time favorite, but it's up there because I wrote it. It has a special sense of, sentimentality. One of the other ones that I wrote, I did not write in full because I kind of got burned out on the project and had to hand it off, and they finished it. And because I was overwhelmed by all of the different ideas that Alphinius kept giving me, and I just could not make it as big and as grand as he wanted. So he did, and he did a fantastic job. It was called Shadows at GenZaCon. And it was a tribute adventure for Gen Con, that he wanted to pack all the different NPCs were real people just put into the world of Xayathay, their world, and with their art and everything in it. It was cool. I had a hand on it. I took the ball first, but I handed it off, and I didn't have anything to do with it, and I did not have anything to do with the sequel, which is out this year, as I... for Gen Con this year, they had the sequel, which is cool. But, those are things that I had a hand in. But that isn't really, again, the ones that I respect and love the most. The overall campaign that Gooey Cube put out, the Red Star Rising campaign, is amazing. I will say this without equivocation. It is a fun, exciting adventure. Very deep, very rich. Not a lot of replayability with the same group, though, because once you've run it and played it, you know all the key moments and everything. I don't know that a person would have the same experiences going through it again. I had tried to play it myself, but, it was good, but, a lot of the things are, once you've done it the first time, you can never have that first time again. And the Red Star Rising campaign from Gooey Cube is definitely one of those. So it is excellent, though. And again, one of my favorites. I have so many great memories of this campaign that I will walk away with that I I almost wish I had another group that would appreciate it as much that I could run it through again. But that being said, that's not going to happen anytime soon, hopefully. So we'll get on with the one that, at my heart, the one that I kind of love the most, has inspired me and taught me so much about gaming, and the various concepts, the pillars of gaming. Has been reprinted a few times, but this is the latest rendition of it that you can get it at. Although the originals were so numerous that they're really cheap to get. But that one is Keep on the Borderlands. This is, of course, Goodman Games' coffee table version, Into the Borderlands. This includes B1 and B2, the games that were put into the box sets for B and X, the basic and expert sets, back in the day. These were the introductory adventures that so many people started with. It's what the modern day Lost Mines of Phandelver, the adventure that comes in the starter set, would be. This was even more widespread, though. This was Gary Gygax writing out basically what goes into role-playing games. Straightforward. It has everything in it. And a lot of those things are actually kind of lacking in modern games. I mean, sure, they all have combat to some extent. Fair enough. This one has plenty of things to fight. But this one has, first of all, the first thing you get confronted with is role-playing. You have to get into the place. You have to talk your way through the guards. You explore the keep itself, which is not hostile and is full of NPCs. Some of them have their own intentions, good and bad, and you have to kind of negotiate through these other people that are there at the keep, which is fine. Then, after you get all loaded up and kitted up with whatever you need, you then go to the next stage of role-playing experiences, which is exploration. You don't know where the dungeon is. You've heard, perhaps, if you've been trying to do anything related to role-playing, that somewhere is a place called the Caves of Chaos, where the monsters that plague civilization spawn from. Adventurers are needed to go there and put an end to the monsters in the Caves of Chaos. So that's ultimately what the players are trying to do. But they don't know where they are to begin. So you start at the keep. From the keep, where do you go? Do you go into the forests to the northeast? Dense, thick forests that, there's probably monsters living in there too. Do you go to the south? The keep is on a high cliff, and then below it is the road leading by the keep, and then there's this big swamp. Caves could certainly be in a swampy area, and that's a place that most people aren't going to be looking forward to trekking through. So maybe your characters will go into that swamp to see if they can find the caves first. And there's a variety of places, not an overwhelming amount, but it is something of a hex crawl. Yeah, you can show off that this area here is all swamp that the players can see. You can show that this area is a high cliff and there's forest up there. Yeah, and the players can then choose what they want to do with it. And that's cool. That is actually a pillar of role-playing games that is often neglected, because it's so much about setting up the encounters. It's about getting from point A to point B to point C and not worrying about what's in between. That was important to old school games, and it's still a pretty good tutor for setting something like that up in here. But not so much that it'll feel like there's nothing to do and just wandering and wandering. There's enough encounters and critters that you will not be bored for doing that. But then, you find the keep. You find the caves. Eventually you will, either because the party has explored and discovered them, which is certainly possible, or because after so long of trekking and exploring and fighting, they've gained a level or two perhaps, and eventually somebody finds the caves. I know, in the book it doesn't specifically say that, but you can easily as a game master tip your hat to the fact that there's other adventurers around. If one of them finds the caves, the first thing they should do is come jetting right back to say, hey, I know where the Caves of Chaos are. And now all the adventurers can go straight there. How will the keep respond to the caves? Will they start working to clear a path so that if needed, an army can go and completely put paid to all those monsters? Or are you just going to facilitate it so that adventurers going to the caves can get there without having to fight their way there, and therefore they can go fresh into the caves and have the best chance of rooting out all of the monsters that come out? Also, the caves themselves are kind of a nice dungeon. There's different points that you can enter through the caves, although several of them are interconnected. There's a variety of creatures, but it's Dungeons and Dragons in the old school. The fights aren't necessarily fair either. Hopefully by this time, through exploration, your characters have gotten a level or two, because if they come face to face with one or two of the monsters that are in the caves, they're probably going to end up as a greasy stain on the floor. So yes, it's a good demonstration of the different monsters, the breadth and range that you might find in a Dungeons & Dragons game, without the titular dragon, of course, still for low-level characters. But still, it's a great adventure. It's all the elements of roleplay spread out before your players, and it's a great guide for anybody wanting to learn how to run a role-playing game. This particular set that I have also includes B1, which was Into the Unknown, which had a starting adventure for you, but it also gave you the ability to create your own. It gave you a map with rooms, and you could populate it as you saw fit. They had all the suggested monsters and things to put in so that you could add some variety, and that your caves are going to be different than most other people's caves. Nice level of customization, good way to show people how to take that next step into game mastering. Actually, solid, but not nearly as good of the content as Keep on the Borderlands. So that's why that will be my favorite. And that I will let stand. I know that this would be a lot of people's favorite too, because I'm not the only person who started off first, that being the first adventure we ever saw, and that being a great guide that we use to coloring how we would eventually run games and make our own. But that one will get my pick for today. And yeah, by the way, while this is cool, it does give you the original game. It also gives you a 5th edition translation for it, for those of you wanting to play it in 5th edition. But the original version is the original version, scanned from the original copy. So if you want to see what the old school version written by Gary looks like, it's in there. So, thank you very much for joining me. I am the Dungeon Tutor, and I appreciate you coming to visit me. I hope this enlightened you, or showed you something, a different side of the game, or a different period, and that's great. Also the pride of an author for his work. But if you really enjoy this and you think, I'd love to see more, I have plenty of other videos, and we'll keep making more videos throughout August, have no fear. If you want, like and subscribe, and you'll get to see those videos as they come aboard, and be able to check through some of the stuff that I've already made. But what I hope more than anything else is to see you again, whether or not you subscribe. And if I do, I really do hope that in the time between then and now, you, yes, you, have gotten a chance to roll some dice, to play some games, to have some fun, and to stay safe out there. Until next time, my friends, farewell.